The words cut through the air like a blade. "Move it, lady. Parking's for people who can actually ride." A ripple of cruel laughter spilled from the line of leather-clad bikers leaning against their roaring machines. The woman in front of them didn't flinch. Her hand, scarred and steady, tightened on the handle of her cane. The parking placard swung gently from her rear-view mirror, catching the morning light, a silent declaration of the battles she had already survived. Yet the men saw only weakness. She lifted her gaze, calm and unshakable, as if she had stared down storms far greater than their mockery. The lot fell quiet for a heartbeat until one of them stepped closer, his boots striking the pavement with deliberate weight. "Didn't you hear me?" he spat. "You don't belong here." Her name was Captain Elena Torres, a Marine combat medic who had served 3 tours overseas. Her body carried the map of sacrifice shrapnel scars tracing across her side, and a prosthetic knee hidden beneath her jeans. She had once run into burning streets to save men who couldn't move, dragging their bleeding forms into safety while mortar shells rained down. Now, each step with her cane whispered of the price she had paid. The smell of asphalt in the sun brought back memories of dust-choked deserts. The laughter of the bikers tangled with echoes of past cries for help. And though her body ached, her silence was steady, a silence that once held the weight of battlefield triage, where screams could not shake her focus. But here, in a quiet American parking lot, her service medals were invisible. These men saw only a limping woman daring to park where she had every right. Bystanders lingered near the storefronts. They saw, they heard. Yet no one stepped forward. A woman with shopping bags lowered her eyes. A young man slipped his phone into his pocket, pretending not to notice. The silence of the crowd pressed down like a second injustice, cowardice wrapped in comfort. The bikers fed on that silence, their jeers growing sharper. One circled her car, running his fingers along the hood as if marking it as prey. Another smirked, whispering to his friend loud enough for her to hear, "Bet she never fought a day in her life." Still, Elena stood her ground. She didn't argue, she didn't plead. She only adjusted the strap of her worn leather satchel, eyes fixed ahead, her silence louder than their insults. And tucked inside that satchel was a phone, a lifeline, already pulsing with a message she had sent minutes earlier. Her mind wandered briefly, as memories pulled her inward. She remembered the night of the ambush, the chaos of flares streaking across the desert sky, the stench of burning fuel, and the taste of iron in her mouth as she pressed bandages into wounds that wouldn't close. She remembered carrying Private Jenkins, who was barely 19, whispering, "You're going to make it." Even as his heartbeat faded in her arms, that night had broken something in her, yet it had also taught her the deepest truth. True strength was silent, patient, and unwavering. So now, facing jeers from men who had never known sacrifice, Elena's silence was not weakness. It was armor. Minutes passed, each one tightening the coil of tension. A biker nudged her cane with his boot, sneering, "Careful you don't trip, Grandma." Another leaned close enough that she could smell the sharp tang of gasoline on his jacket. Yet she remained still, unshaken, watching, waiting. Then, at the far end of the lot, engines rumbled deep, controlled, and in perfect rhythm. It was not the chaotic roar of bikers seeking attention. It was the steady thunder of men trained to move as one. The crowd turned as 3 black SUVs pulled in, sleek and unmarked. Doors opened in silent precision. Out stepped a group of men whose presence shifted the air itself, broad-shouldered, disciplined. Eyes scanning with the calm intensity of wolves protecting their pack. They were Navy SEALs. The bikers straightened, their smirks faltering. They hadn't expected company. One of the SEALs, his face weathered and unreadable, moved toward Elena with a nod that carried both respect and recognition. They didn't need words. Shared service spoke louder than any introduction. The SEALs formed a loose semicircle, not aggressive, not loud, just present. Their silence was heavy with meaning. They didn't need to shout. They didn't need to threaten. Their very stillness declared, "You are outnumbered, not in bodies, but in honor." One biker, trying to salvage bravado, scoffed. "What's this? Her babysitters?" The SEAL leader tilted his head, eyes unwavering. "She carried men out of hell when most would have run. You should be on your knees thanking her. You live in a country safe enough for you to waste your lives like this." The words struck like a hammer. The lot was silent. Even the bystanders, once frozen, now lifted their heads, shame flickering across their faces. Elena finally spoke, her voice calm but resonant. "You measure strength in noise. I measure it in sacrifice. And sacrifice doesn't need your permission." The bikers shifted uneasily. Their swagger cracked under the weight of so many unblinking stares. One muttered an excuse about needing to ride out. Another pretended to check his phone. Within minutes, their engines roared again, not with dominance, but with retreat. They scattered down the road, their laughter gone. Silence remained, but it was no longer heavy with injustice. It was reverent. The crowd, once complicit, now stood straighter. A woman placed her hand over her heart. A man whispered to his son, "That's what respect looks like." The SEAL leader tilted his head, eyes unwavering. "She carried men out of hell when most would have run. You should be on your knees, thanking her. You live in a country safe enough for you to waste your lives like this." The words struck like a hammer. The lot was silent. Even the bystanders, once frozen, now lifted their heads, shame flickering across their faces. Elena finally spoke, her voice calm but resonant. "You measure strength in noise. I measure it in sacrifice. And sacrifice doesn't need your permission." The bikers shifted uneasily. Their swagger cracked under the weight of so many unblinking stares. One muttered an excuse about needing to ride out. Another pretended to check his phone. Within minutes, their engines roared again, not with dominance, but with retreat. They scattered down the road, their laughter gone. Silence remained. But it was no longer heavy with injustice. It was reverent. The crowd, once complicit, now stood straighter. A woman placed her hand over her heart. A man whispered to his son, "That's what respect looks like." The SEAL leader looked at Elena, his voice low. "You didn't need us, but you'll never stand alone." And in that moment, she knew the truth she had carried all along. Honor is not measured by scars or medals, but by the unseen bonds of those who choose to protect even when the battle is long past. Later, people would remember the sight. A disabled veteran standing tall with her cane, flanked by silent guardians who hadn't let her endure that moment alone. The image would spread online, in conversations, in hearts as a quiet reminder of dignity that could not be broken. And Elena's words, spoken in calm defiance, would echo far beyond the parking lot. Sacrifice doesn't need your permission. Respect is not owed to uniforms, medals, or titles. It is owed to the unseen battles fought in silence, the sacrifices carried in scars, and the quiet strength of those who gave more than they ever received. If this story moved you, share it. Let it remind you that true strength is never loud, and true honor never seeks applause. Comment where you're watching from, share what this moment means to you, and subscribe for more stories that honor the heroes among us, seen and unseen.